Bucky, your reaction to Mike McDaniel getting fired?
Man, wow. It appeared that Mike McDaniel had done everything to save his job with the way the team played down the stretch, the way that they finished, the energy that they played with, all of those things. And even the decisions that he made when he sat Tua down, it appeared that he was going to be able to survive, a couple years of mediocrity. However, when John Harbaugh is available, and as you begin to try and connect some dots with maybe Lamar Jackson also being available, given his contract status and the amount of money they may have to re-up him to. Yeah, I think it's interesting to make this move now. Look, Miami is a situation that when you talk to people in there, culturally, the locker room wasn't right. There were people that had been let go that didn't have a tremendous amount of respect for Mike McDaniel and his coaching style, his demeanor, the way he held the team. And it is hard to kind of put the toothpaste back in the tube when those things happen. And even though he tried to acquit himself well this year by trying to take a harder line stance with the locker room and meetings and some things that have been allowed, I think it has to be a hard reset. And Miami, everyone understands the city. My personal opinion is that if you're coaching a team in Miami with all of the distractions, it takes a harder edge coach to coach that team because if you are a player's coach, it can run amok because there are too many distractions away from the facility to keep your team focused on the game at hand.
Are you referring to King of Diamonds or Tootsies?
I'm just saying the younger me may have known those places, but yeah, like those young guys, they know. Look, there's a reason why the Miami Heat and Heat culture is operated a certain way and why they've been successful is because Pat Riley and those guys know the challenges of building a championship caliber team in that city, given all the distractions. I don't know if that is necessarily caught hold for the Dolphins, but I think Stephen Ross has to look at that and has to understand what he's dealing with when you have a franchise in that city with the allure of all the things that the trappings of Miami offers. The next coach has to be more of a disciplinarian, someone that is on the details, someone that is not afraid to challenge and confront the players to get the best out of the team as they go forward.
Yeah, Bucky, I think you raised an excellent point that I hadn't even had time to factor into or even get there. That's excellent analysis, and particularly when you think about John Harbaugh, he's a culture builder. He's not an offensive-minded coach. He's not a defensive-minded coach. Comes from a special teams background, but his real strength is developing a culture of accountability, a culture of masculinity, a culture of responsibility. You sit here and think about it, it's the perfect fit. And if maybe if John Harbaugh isn't available, Mike McDaniel keeps his job.
Probably so. And I think it goes deeper than this because understand Stephen Ross having Michigan ties. Michigan is obviously where Jim Harbaugh had success. So obviously he knows what that product looks like because it brought his alma mater a national title. When you think about the candidates, people talk about Axe, Chad Alexander, who is with the Chargers, potentially coming on board as a general manager. You're now being able to replicate first the culture in Baltimore coming over to San Diego, well, Los Angeles, the Chargers culture, and how quickly they've issued a turnaround. Why wouldn't you sign up for that if you're Stephen Ross and you're desperate to build a winner? It makes sense to basically recreate what you've seen to be successful in multiple environments. Why not bring that to South Beach?
The real elephant in the room is the availability potentially of Lamar Jackson. Mike Preston, longtime NFL reporter, covered the Baltimore Ravens for several decades. Few weeks ago puts it out there that hey, there's talk that Lamar would love to play in Miami. There's talk that Lamar may be open again to leaving Baltimore. Would it make sense for Baltimore to get out of the Lamar Jackson business? What would be the things that would make the organization think, hey, maybe it's time to move on from Lamar?
It's really interesting because there are a few different things when it comes to Lamar. Let's talk about in Baltimore. One, you have a situation where John Harbaugh really helped Lamar Jackson become a two-time MVP, and some would say maybe he should have been a three-time MVP. on his watch, gave him an opportunity to start as a rookie, basically saved his job when he came in in a way, revolutionized the game as a dual threat quarterback who first dominated the game as a runner, but then in recent years, he's shown the ability to dominate as a passer. That said, I think if you're Miami or if you're Baltimore, you got to look at where Lamar Jackson is 8, 9 years into his career. When I looked at the Pittsburgh game, it's the first time that I didn't necessarily see the juice when he left the pocket. When he took off, it's the first time I didn't see the specialness that we've seen from Lamar Jackson for a long time as a dual threat. And as he progresses, because the next deal that he signs, now we're talking about year 10, 11, 12. Is he going to be able to gradually transition into more of a traditional player who has to play from the pocket? I'm not saying that he will be like Russell Wilson, but remember, when Russell Wilson lost some of his athleticism, his game started to wane at the end of his career. Will Lamar Jackson have the wherewithal to change his game where he's able to play at a high level when he loses some of the athleticism that has been the trademark of his game?
So, do man, that if you're Baltimore, let me put you on the spot. If you're Baltimore and you could get an amazing haul of draft picks and future players, would you pull the trigger? It's like, hey, John Harbaugh and Lamar were kind of a package deal. They revolutionized with the RPO. They took what Chip Kelly did to the next level. If you're running Baltimore, if you were Ozzie Newsome back when Ozzie Newsome was running, would you explore trading Lamar Jackson?
I wouldn't. And the only reason why I wouldn't, Jason, is because in looking ahead to this year's draft class, the quarterback market offers nothing. And so if they move away from a two-time MVP, there's no guarantee they could get the results that they're currently getting with anybody that's available, whether in free agency or in the draft. And we know if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a chance. It's in the best interest of the Ravens to keep Lamar Jackson, but to challenge him to take his game up a notch. He has to show up in the offseason and be available. He has to be a guy that I would say not only necessarily like the best way to say it is a better leader with his actions in terms of the way that he's getting everyone in. Because if you're a team and a franchise that now is saying Super Bowl or bust, you need your quarterback to model and exemplify that same mantra. And so you got to get a little more out of him. But in no way am I saying that he should be traded away from Baltimore. He's too good. He's been too good for so long to let him go. And there aren't any availables to be a ready-made solution for Lamar Jackson if he's no longer in Baltimore.
I'm concerned if I'm Steve Bisciotti, though. Like, okay, his guy was John Harbaugh, and the amount of leadership we got out of Lamar Jackson was because of his relationship with John Harbaugh. Am I really going to bring in an outsider or someone else that will connect with Lamar and help elevate him as a leader to that next level? I'm not sure if I can do that. What coach is available that's out there? Because it's like I'm a big Kevin Stefanski guy, but is he the right fit for Lamar Jackson? Probably not with the style of offense he plays. Who do you partner Lamar with for the next iteration of Lamar? Brian Flores, a defensive-minded coach? Who?
It's really interesting. I think there are a few names that have come to mind. One has direct ties to the Ravens organization. That'll be Jesse Minter, coming from the Chargers. He's been in the
Known
building.
Jesse since he was like 6 years old. His dad was our defensive coordinator at Ball
Oh,
State.
Rick
Go
Minter.
ahead,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So he knows the lay of the land. And I think if you're Steve Bisciotti, you don't want a complete cultural reset. You want a cultural refreshing. You want, like, maybe the voice had gotten a little stale with John Harbaugh. You understand the core tenets of the program is great. Maybe Jesse Minter, like Mike McDaniel has done up in the Pacific Northwest. Maybe he can give them that same identity, but a little better. And maybe as a younger coach, he can connect better with Lamar Jackson. If it's not him, it's someone who has ties to the organization via his dad, maybe Clint Kubiak. And the reason Clint Kubiak could be in the mix, think about Gary Kubiak and what he did in helping them as the offensive coordinator with Joe Flacco win a Super Bowl. Obviously, that intel where the dad can tell them the lay of the land of the organization and how it works. To me, those are two names that would go to the front of The line, the wild card would be a guy like Anthony Weaver. And the reason Anthony Weaver, having played there, having coached there, a little bit of a disciplinarian coming from a defensive standpoint, maybe he can kind of change the tenor that is in that locker room by coming back and reestablishing how the Ravens want to operate.
Anthony Weaver, he's the defensive coordinator where?
He was with the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, that's huh. Wow, that's in. All right, let's look at it from the Miami perspective. If you're Stephen Ross and someone, man, I can get you John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson, and you guys can. That's a win now move. And are they ready to win right now? Do they, they know Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill will never be what Tyreek Hill was if he ever tries to play again. Does this, would going all in on Lamar make sense for the Dolphins?
I think the one thing that you have to explore, and this would take a lot of research by the Dolphins, is everyone can't play at home, Jason. So now, when you bring Lamar back to South Florida, what does that look like? What is his ability to work in his hometown with all the distractions that can come with playing with your hometown buddies and family and those things? So the first thing you got to research is, will he be able to manage all of that and be able to play at a Super Bowl level in basically his hometown? Secondly, if we're talking about John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson reconnecting, we've heard about the rift that might have existed between Lamar Jackson and Todd Monken. So who does John Harbaugh hire as the offensive coordinator to bring out the best in Lamar Jackson? Because that relationship between head coach and QB1 is critical. But the play caller is even more essential to making sure that Lamar Jackson transitions from being the dual threat playmaker to being a guy that may have to operate primarily from the pocket as he gets older in his career.